This is Partners in Crime with Adam Croft and Robert Daws.
Hello. Oh, we've got a black screen here. Hello, there we go. I'll fix that.
I think I prefer the black screen.
Do you? Most people probably would, yeah. Welcome to episode 119 of Partners in Crime. How are you, Bob?
I've got my trousers on.
You have got your trousers
Which
on.
is, as we start with the weather, traditionally, it is the first, well, yesterday was the first day of autumn, wasn't it?
It certainly
not
felt
when
like
this
it,
goes
yeah.
out, of course, so it's several days into autumn now. And it's extraordinary because, day before yesterday, I was looking at the trees in the garden, I was thinking, God, look at that, they've kept their green, this is extraordinary. And then overnight, there
it'll always be the same day each year as well?
Yeah.
The temperature and the weather makes no difference whatsoever. Trees, when they lose their leaves, it's all about the light levels. And, of course, they change at the same time each year. That's entirely predictable and unchangeable.
Do you know, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I thought it was climate. It is climate, but it's not climate, it's light.
Yes, it's the light levels for trees. Plants, they can. They'll go on longer if the weather permits.
Good grief.
There we go.
Well, there we are. Thank you very much for that.
That's
but
quite
anyway,
right.
here we are in autumn, and welcome to all our marvellous listeners. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully we've got a few interesting things to say.
I'm done.
I wouldn't bank on it.
I've blown my interesting stuff already.
Yes, you have gone after hello.
Yes. We were just talking actually before the show about next week's show because I won't be here because I've got my book launch up in Rutland on borrowed time. But we have come up with a little idea. We're going to confirm this shortly after recording, but it looks like we will be recording next week's episode from Rutland Water.
Yes.
I think we managed to secure a place there by twisting a few arms where we'll actually be able to sit and record it out by the water and watch the boats going out and talk a load of nonsense up there instead of down here in Bedfordshire.
Well, it's an outing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So a little jolly junket, as long as there's a bacon sandwich at the end of it and a nice view. I think that would be very nice.
I think pub lunch, never mind bacon sandwich.
At least I'll know where the bodies are buried.
You'll be able to see them, literally.
So when is your book? It says here, ask Adam when his book is. When is your book launched, Adam?
Tuesday.
That'll be on the
29th.
Tuesday, the 29th.
Yeah.
Okay, and available in all good bookstores in the Rutland area.
Yeah, and some really bad ones as well.
I'm sure there aren't any.
No, there aren't there.
Bad bookshops
Of course
in
not,
London.
of course
Only fine, upstanding emporiums of literature.
Yes, I don't intend to be upstanding though this time next week. I tend to be very much horizontal. Thankfully, the pubs are still open. So thanks, Boris. We'll take advantage of that while we can.
So there we are. That's us next week. Hopefully recording live from Rutland Water. So there we are.
Yeah.
Good.
We need to make sure it can all be done safely and that we can get you up there and we can get all the equipment set up and get Moriarty down there and all the rest of it and make sure everything is.
Well, I'll be happily waiting for the car to arrive to pick me up and drive me there, and in the time-honoured way. See, this is what I'm used to. This is the way I've been spoilt over the years.
Well, this is not the BBC, and I've got enough to do next week, frankly.
I know that. I'll just get a list of buses and connections to take from Mr. Croft on the day.
Hitchhike. Get yourself up to the Black Cat roundabout and hitchhike.
23B to Peterborough. Change to the... Yes, I know.
I'd get the train from Peterborough if I were you.
Yeah.
It's really expensive, that line.
Yes, tell me about it. I was travelling around a lot earlier in the year and the end of last year, and it's not cheap.
Well, Oakham to Stamford will cost you. I mean, bearing in mind it's I think a 10-minute journey. It takes about that by car. To be honest, those little diesel trains don't go much faster than the car. £15 one stop.
One stop. Mm-hmm. Is that a surcharge to get into Rutland? Is it a Rutland tax?
I think it's just a case of keeping that line going because otherwise it'll be gone.
Yes. It's
a long walk. So.
Yes. Well, it is a long walk. I'm not going to do that. You can send the sedan chair for me at that particular juncture.
Yes.
and I'll hop in on my way. Anyway,
fingers crossed.
Turn to matters crime. Have you got anything interesting to impart to our listening
Well, I mean, that's all
thousands?
That's a matter of subjectivity, I guess. But there's an article in the Telegraph this week by Lena Daws, who's speaking to Lynda La Plante. And the headline is extraordinary. Talk about trying to get clicks. Lynda La Plante on nudity, blindness, and bringing up a teenager in her 70s is the title of the article. It says here, it talks about a time that she auditioned as a young actress and had an unpleasant encounter with a well-known British director. She says she was uncomfortable with the nudity in the play because the front row would have seen a little too much. And the director replied, saying, "I think you don't want to be naked because you don't like your body." And Lynda said, "That's not it at all," and pulled up her t-shirt as if she was going to strip off. She says she's never been moved out of an office so fast. But she got the part.
Well, yes.
So there we go.
Well, goodness me.
But that's not the last time she was kicked out of somewhere, because apparently, I didn't know this, 3 years ago, when ITV was making Prime Suspect in 1973, she was barred from the set, despite 5 decades of acting, writing and producing, and having, written Prime Suspect.
Yes.
She was barred from the set and said it made her lose confidence in herself. But a friend of hers said, "Don't waste your time thinking about it. The best revenge is to be more successful." And 2 days later, Steve McQueen phoned wanting to make Widows into a massive movie, which subsequently took nearly £60 million at the box office.
Good grief.
How about that?
Good Lord. Have you ever appeared naked on the stage?
No, I've had my top off once or twice.
Oh.
But not. I mean, in plays, not just.
I didn't read anything about that
just
in the
climb
local
up
papers, so it obviously didn't sort of leave an indelible mark on people's imaginations.
No, I didn't climb up. I was in the cast, and it was called for. I didn't just do it for the sake of it.
It's a fairly traumatic thing.
Oh no, I came out of my pants once. I came out of the shower.
Ah, well, I might have read about that, but I've had to do it twice.
Oh.
Well, actually, considerably more than twice, really, because if you're doing it in a play, I've never done it on television. I've done certain, sort of naughty scenes on television, but all done in the best possible taste. But I've done 2 plays where I had to appear absolutely naked as the day I was born, which was quite traumatic, I think, really, for the audience as much as anything else. I can remember the first time I had to do it. I did it in a play in my local repertory theatre.
Oh no! So everyone you know is there as well.
And the device on the play was that the audience would come in to it was a studio performance, and I'd be sort of in character on a duvet with John Lennon music playing, and
with John Lennon.
With John Lennon. Where's Yoko? Oh, under the duvet. Hello, love. And the audience would come in, sit down, and then the lights would go down, and the lights on stage would come up, and we'd be in the play. To my absolute horror, knowing that during this play I would have to take all my clothes off and stand there absolutely bollock naked, my RE teacher from school came in with a class of about 10 girls from the school, took their seats, and then to my added horror, with me sitting on the stage, she came over and started to have a chat. And of course I was in character, so I couldn't. She didn't exist to me. I was in another world. She said, "No, hello, Robert. Hello. We've come to see the play this evening, and I brought some of the girls from 6G, and we're really looking forward to it. Is it a comedy?" And I did. She said, and she gave up in the end and went and sat down. and the play unfolded with me standing there halfway through. Showing more than I think she certainly would have liked, and rather more than I would have liked. But it's traumatic. But I've been there. I've seen it.
So did they.
I've survived, and it's not a pleasant experience, I have to say.
No. Well, I can't quite top that. I was in The Memory of Water, and I came out of the shower, and very quickly just sort of towelled myself. I had underwear on. I sort of towelled myself. I made an effort to show that I was, and then put my trousers and my shirt on. That was it. No 6G, no RE teacher.
It's not the same thing.
It's not the same.
It's not the same.
It's not the same.
You can't boast about being on stage in nothing but Y fronts. That's
should have gone to RADA, shouldn't I?
That's it. There we have special classes on how to take your Y fronts off. It's that's
with your teeth. So Lynda La Plante was saying...
Yes. How did we get from Lynda La Plante? Yeah, that's it.
So she said she had an eye operation 2 years ago that left her totally blinded for about 5 months.
Ooh, right.
That must have been the point at which she agreed to come on Partners in Crime. But the months of blindness meant she had to improvise a whole new way of writing. She fell back on her former career of acting because she trained at RADA. Funnily enough, it all comes full circle.
And a very fine actress she was, from all accounts. I've never seen her act, but I can imagine she'd be very good.
Well, she said she would enact the lines of every character and secretaries would frantically take down her dictated prose because she couldn't see for months. She said those poor secretaries had never come across such a lunatic. I'd say, are you keeping up? And they'd ask, is that part of the script? And I'd say, no, I meant that for you. She also used it for her latest novel, Blunt Force, which is another in the young Jane Tennyson series, which follows Jane as a detective, it says here in the Telegraph, having been booted off the flying squad and sent to investigate the brutal murder of theatrical agent Charles Foxley. Apparently, a detective told her he was investigating a very famous movie star's murder and said it was difficult because everyone he spoke to in that world put on such an act. So she thought, wouldn't it be great for Jane to be out of her depth with these outrageous people? She says she's been incredibly productive during lockdown, which she spent at home in Surrey with her 17-year-old son, Lorcan. So lots more books coming from Lynda soon. But Blunt Force is out now and highly recommended, of course, from us.
Excellent. Yes, always. I mean, she's extraordinary. Having to do that, I mean, God, that must have been awful, actually, just losing her sight for that period of time. But it reminded me that Barbara Cartland used to actually dictate all her novels, didn't she?
Yes,
Used to sit on a chaise longue and with a quaking personal assistant, sort of just taking down all the everything she wrote.
As made famous in Little Britain, of course.
Cobbled together into a book.
Little Britain, they parodied that, didn't they?
Did they?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't see that episode.
Oh, publish.
Oh, right. Oh, thank you. I'm learning a lot this episode. Thank you very much.
You've got a book in front of you.
I have got a book in front. Well, I've got a couple of things, actually. I was going to say... No, actually, I'll dive straight in with this.
Go on.
I have a book, and it sounds a little bit like this.
That sounds like Knife Edge by Simon Mayo to me.
How did you know?
I'm getting good at this.
Yeah, that's a particular noise it makes. Excuse me while I clear my throat. Yes, it's Simon Mayo's new book, his first contemporary thriller. Now, Simon Mayo, as everyone in the UK will know, is a writer and broadcaster. We know him probably best as a broadcaster. He's a presenter of the podcast Simon Mayo's Books of the Year, a daily host of Scala Radio, and co-presenter of Commode and Mayo's film review for the BBC. His previous books include Mad Blood Stirring, Blame, and The Itch trilogy, filmed for TV by ABC. So this is Knife Edge. I'll tell you what it says on the cover. You never know where danger will come from. 7:15 a.m, a sweltering London rush hour, and in the last 29 minutes, in a series of coordinated attacks across the city, 7 people have been murdered. For journalist Femi Madden, the horror is unfolding as she arrives for her morning shift. The victims have one thing in common. They make up the investigation team at the news agency where Femi works. Why were they killed? What were they working on? As Femi starts to receive messages from an unknown source, she must find out whether she is being warned of the next attack or being told that she will be the next victim. Well, I'm about a quarter of the way in, and it is a page-turner. I have to say, it's a great conceit, a terrifying conceit, really. So I would recommend it. Lee Child says, step by all too plausible step were sucked into frantic, breathless action. I entirely agree with that. Anthony Horowitz says, remarkably hard-hitting and surprising. Quite a ride. A tough, violent, exciting read. So that's Simon Mayo's Knife Edge, which is available now, and you can probably get it. In fact, I know you can get it from where, Adam?
We would suggest Kobo, seeing as they pay us money.
Yes. Well,
to put it bluntly.
Yes.
If you head over to kobo.com, we're not the only people who benefit. You benefit far more than we do, I can promise you that. Because
25p per podcast.
Exactly, yeah, it's not far
I'm
off.
not, man. I'm very, very, very welcoming. that.
Yeah. Well, if you head over to Kobo.com and enter the promo code CRIME at the checkout, if you've not used Kobo before, then they will give you 90% off your first purchase with them. If you have used that code, then use the promo code PARTNERS and follow the link in the show notes for 40% off of selected titles from now until Kingdom Come, whenever the kingdom does come. You don't need one of their e-readers. They're highly recommended, but you can always just download the free app for your phone or tablet.
Yes, beautifully said. You've really got that off pat, haven't you?
I'm getting a hang of it now. I've said it well over 119 times now. So
119 times.
yeah, once or twice a show.
So I've been watching a bit of television, and I mentioned it last week, and of course couldn't remember the person who directed and produced it, and couldn't remember the name of it. But there's a series that's available on Sky.
You remembered that much?
Yeah, I've got it's all written down now, so I can actually read it. It's been covered very eloquently by Marianne Eloise in the Graniad, in the Guardian, and it was a series called "I'll Be Gone in the Dark," which was a terrifying phrase used by the Golden State Killer to one of his tragically many victims. And I'll tell you, I'll just read what Marianne has said. Michelle McNamara stares into the camera and says solemnly that the story of the Golden State Killer's victims has to be told. It is not a soundbite. Before her death, at the age of 46 in 2016, McNamara had become fixated on the case. A series of at least 50 rapes and 13 murders committed by a then unknown assailant who broke into people's homes in Northern California in the 70s and 80s. The author tirelessly combed through boxes of evidence and tracked down old players, aiming not only to write about the case, but to solve it. Her book, I'll Be Gone in the Dark, One Woman's Obsessive Search for the Golden State Killer, is the result of that commitment. Often compared to Truman Capote's In Cold Blood, it was finished posthumously by her husband, the comedian Patton Oswalt, her research partner Paul Haynes, and the crime writer Billy Jensen. McNamara's work was crucial to the investigation, and she was responsible for rebranding the man originally known as the East Area Rapist and original Night Stalker as the Golden State Killer. In an effort to reignite interest, Joseph James DeAngelo pleaded guilty to the murders and admitted dozens of sexual assaults on the 29th of June this year. Now, it's directed by Liz Garbus, famous Emmy Award, I think, maybe Oscar Award-winning director. The HBO series about McNamara, from which that archive clip is taken, is also titled I'll Be Gone in the Dark, is a high watermark for a new kind of true crime TV. Eschewing gore, it marks a shift to victim-first storytelling that shuns shock value in favour of thoroughly investigated stories about real people. Set against the political backdrop of the 70s, it centres on the victims and the ways in which they were failed by a victim-blaming culture. Until 2001, when DNA evidence proved that the murders and rapes were connected, the East Area Rapist case was largely forgotten, in part because he was not unique, and in part because rape was not taken seriously. The series features interviews with a number of survivors, exploring their trauma, the effects of what they went through, and the immense burdens they still carry. Interspersed footage from public service announcements about rape in the 70s are a shocking reminder of how these crimes were considered as a simple assault, a view challenged by McNamara in her book. It considers the potential trauma of anyone watching too, and while the stories told are heavy, the images are not triggering. The only flashing pictures on screen are ones of families and children, reminding viewers what DeAngelo took away. Well, I've seen all 6 episodes of it, and it's an extraordinarily moving and shocking true life crime series, and as I've just mentioned, and as Marianne Eloise points out very eloquently, it's done very sensitively and compassionately. Get the book. Get the book first. I would have thought you could get that from Kobo as well. I'll Be Gone in the Dark, and watch the 6-part series on Sky. It's riveting television, and of course, after McNamara had sadly passed, I mean, she died actually of an overdose brought on by the stress of working on this case, we are told, and that's a very sad tale in itself, but an awful lot of what she did and the work she put in over the years went to helping catch D'Angelo, although in the very end it was DNA that caught him. Thank goodness, an old 74-year-old man. There are pictures of him in court, which are utterly disgusting because, as it was pointed out, he was trying to feign weakness and mental deterioration, and they caught him in his cell doing push-ups and whatever, and proving he was quite compos mentis at that age, and he is now in prison for the rest of his life. So it's an extraordinary series. Do watch it if you have an interest in these things. It's, I think, one of the best I've ever seen, and Liz Garbus, I think, is a very, very, very fine documentary maker. So that's on Sky. It's an HBO production, currently in the UK on Sky, or I don't know, whatever platform, in whatever country you happen to be listening to this from. Find it, because it will be there, and it is well worth the watch.
Lovely jubbly. I saw something else in the news this week on an Australian news website talking about the new Robert Galbraith book, Troubled Blood. Robert Galbraith, of course, a pseudonym for crime writing of J.K. Rowling. And it opens, whatever you may have heard to the contrary, thanks to one British newspaper, this fifth novel in the Cormoran Strike series by Robert Galbraith, the crime-writing alias of J.K. Rowling, is not about a transvestite serial killer. For those of you who are unaware, J.K. Rowling has been in and out of the news due to her comments over trans people, and we will leave that subject well there, because it's a quagmire. But it was all over the newspapers recently, or one newspaper in particular over here, that she had written a book about a transvestite serial killer and was looking to paint the trans community in a bad light, following on from previous comments of hers. But this article says, within the cast of hundreds, there is a relatively minor character called Creed, whose modus operandi is sometimes, not always, to wear women's clothes as a disguise in stalking victims. Creed appears in person once in the whole 927 pages and is named and described only briefly and intermittently otherwise. Matters transgender are not mentioned at all. Which I didn't know. If you'd followed the news coverage that it's had over here, you would have thought quite
it was
opposite.
the centre of the novel. Which,
just goes to show how things can
clearly
respond, doesn't it?
That's making news possibly in the wrong way. Fake.
You are fake news.
So anyway, yes. Well, interesting enough, Joan Smith in the Sunday Times review of Troubled Blood gives it an excellent review describing it as a magnificent addition to the Strike novels. So there we are. If you're a fan of Cormoran Strike, be it from books or from the television series, then that's a new one to get hold of. You've probably got it already.
Well, MovieWeb.com carried an article this week about new series on Netflix. Is it Henry Cavill?
Is that Superman?
Maybe.
Yes, I think he's played. He's played Superman.
Well, he's the latest actor to portray, according to MovieWeb.com, the most famous detective in all of fiction, Sherlock Holmes. He will play a supporting role as the consulting detective in Netflix's upcoming movie Enola Holmes, which stars Millie Bobby Brown, which is a lovely name,
Millie Bobby Brown
from Stranger Things, in the lead role as Sherlock's 14-year-old genius sister, Enola. He spoke to Radio Times and said Sherlock will differ from previous takes on the character because it's different from what we may see as the traditional misogynistic genius. Enola softens Sherlock and opens up his heart, which we haven't really had access to in other renditions. It's based on the best-selling series by Nancy Springer. It tells the story of Holmes's youngest sibling, who sets out on a quest to track down her missing mother after her older brothers, Mycroft and Sherlock, prove to be singularly unhelpful. It will be strange to see Sherlock wrapped up in a mystery he does not personally solve. For Cavill, his own similarity with the character's approach to crime-solving lies not in being almost supernaturally observant, but staying doggedly with a case until it is solved. It's directed by Harry Bradbeer, features a lead cast of Millie Bobby Brown, Sam Claflin, Adil Akhtar, Fiona Shaw, Francis de la Tour, blimey, Louis Partridge, Bern Gorman, Susan Wacoma, and of course Henry Cavill and Helena Bonham Carter.
Of course. Is there a
just-
British film that's made without her?
Yeah, just casually mentioned at the end there.
Yes, just thrown in for good measure.
That arrived on Netflix on Wednesday. So that's out now, and you can go and watch Enola Holmes on Netflix.
Good
now.
grief. Now that is the gift that keeps on giving, isn't it? The Sherlock Holmes storylines. You just sort of you can just pick any. I mean, I thought I came up with an idea for a story based around a Sherlock Holmes thing a few years ago. I haven't done anything about it as usual, but yeah, I mean, it's the appetite for Sherlock Holmes remains singularly unquenched.
Well, it's
worldwide.
extraordinarily popular and also out of copyright. So you can do what you like with the character, basically, and write new series
Yes.
and do things. And you don't have to pay anything to the Conan Doyle estate, because he's been dead more than 70 years.
Yes. Can you unquench an appetite? I don't know whether you can.
I think I could probably have a good old go, yeah.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure that's one thing I am capable of, is stopping people being keen on anything.
So there we are. So that's Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
That's Cormoran Strike, and I actually nothing to do with crime at all. I mean, have you been watching Us, the David Nichols
No.
television adaptation of his book?
I've been watching nothing. I've only just caught up on the last episode. Only just caught up on the last episode of Des.
Oh right, yes, yeah, that's lovely Des O'Connor.
Yes.
We did that last week, but
We did
it's
that
always
week.
worth pumping Des O'Connor in. And again, yeah. Well, I mean, I mentioned it because it's a good book. I've read the book. It's an excellent book. David Nichols is a extraordinarily fine writer, but it's very well done. And there is a crime link actually, because a certain actress, Sophie Grubble, from the ever excellent The Killing, Nordic noir at its best, it turns up in this, and a very fine performance she gives too. So there we are. There's a little crime spin in everything, even though it's a sort of, I wouldn't call it a romantic comedy, though there is a certain amount of romance in it, but it's very funny, very witty, and first class entertainment. We've got through all 4 episodes. It's on Sunday nights on the BBC at 9 o'clock, but it is available. So no crime in it really. You can, I'm trying to think. Is there any crime? No, there's no crime at all.
Much like this podcast in general, really. I mean, that doesn't normally stop us, does it?
So if you don't want to watch a sort of, I'm watching ITV3, which is sort of chock a block with repeats of crime. Series. It's almost become a crime channel now. So if you want a little break from crime, then watch Us.
Moriarty's,
Not Us, of course. but,
Moriarty's just drawn a picture of you,
yes.
which I if you can see it from there, but it's you sitting there talking in your...
Oh yes. Oh, what an extraordinary likeness.
I think we'll use that as the artwork for the episode this week.
Thank you, Moriarty. I look like I look like Al from Winnie the Pooh, really, don't I?
We're going to use that as the artwork, I've decided, for the episode.
Yes. So thank you very much, Moriarty. Don't give up the day job, but thanks for the effort. I mean,
We can thank him in person next week when we do Partners in Crime live. Well, not live, but as live as we ever are.
yeah,
As live.
We do Partners in Crime from somewhere else.
Yeah.
Can you actually sort of promote a show like that? This is Partners in Crime from somewhere else.
Yeah, we'll be on location. In fact, I will say it's probably going to be well worth being a Patreon supporter for that one, because video is going to be the main thing there. You'll be able to see us on Rutland Water presenting right there, right on the waterfront.
Not in the water.
Not in the water, hopefully not in the water. If you follow the link in the show notes, or I think it's patreon.com/Partners in Crime podcast, then you can help support the show, and you get a number of benefits, including being able to watch every episode, not just listen to us, but you get to watch it all in full HD video. So you can see whether Bob's wearing shorts or trousers, for example. You can see all the stuff that doesn't go into the main show. You also get access to Partners in Crime, Arsenic and Old Lace,
Yes.
which is the second episode we do each week, and that will be available in Patreon. And you normally get access to the episodes at least a couple of days earlier than anyone else. So what you've got to do is go and do that. Head over through the link in the show notes.
There we are. Well, anyway, I must apologise because I'm a bit below par this week. I had a rather late night last night and a little bit of gentle imbibing. and Mr. Croft insisted that I get to the studio early today instead of allowing me to sort of recover at my leisure.
When you told me you were drinking, I was like, right, okay, we're making this first thing now.
Yeah, he's a swine. He's a total swine, I tell you.
I've got a bedroom to paint.
You have got, he's got a bedroom. It's non-stop, best-selling novel here, 3 walls full of magnolia there. I mean, he's an absolute dynamo, which, of course, as I've just pointed out, is the complete opposite to how I'm feeling today.
Well, perk yourself up for next week, because we are, as it looks like. I mean, if we're not here next week, then you know that something went wrong.
What a disappointment if listeners tune in. Do they tune in? What do they do on digital? They just flick a button and just
press play.
Let's listen to those two. And we're still here. I mean, it's
we won't be
maybe
here
a different colour
because
shirt.
I will be up there. So
you will be up there.
I'll be there anyway because it's the book launch. So
okay.
I'll be there anyway. So we'll either be in Rutland or we won't be
in Rutland.
Next week, so.
Well, yeah, okay. Well, so I suppose for now it's farewell from us on Partners in Crime, and looking forward to Rutland Water next week, where we hope to bring a semi-live show or whatever we choose to do, bringing the world our usual banter. I will make sure that I do not have a slight Malbec head. Even your coffee has not managed to revive it, and I will be a little more professional next week. We've got Arsenic and Old Lace to do now, haven't we?
We have, yeah. We'll make it a short one, shall we? I was thinking next week, if you're not quite up to it, I could always present the show with an osprey.
Partners in Crime was presented by Adam Croft and Robert Daws and produced by Adam Croft. The theme tune was by the Caesareans. The Partners in Crime logo and imagery were designed by Stuart Beisch. Partners in Crime is sponsored by Kobo, your favourite local bookshop, perfected.